Returnal looks like an interesting game when you see it. Returnal sounds like a good game when you hear about it.
So superb, so memorable, and so iconic.
Returnal feels like a good game when you play it. And when you really think about it, Returnal is a good game. It's a game with tight and innovative gameplay mechanics, especially in how it combines aspects of both roguelike and bullet hell. The story is intriguing and seemingly flows through the gameplay. The setting is unique and one that honestly we don't see that often anymore. And yet they say the devil is in the details. And while arguably there's no devils around, I'm here for those details. Truth is, this game has been on my mind long ago, ever since I saw on my feed Jacob Geller's video on the game titled Returnal is a hell of our own creation, and couldn't wait to watch it, but of course I needed to actually play the game first. And just something extra to note, at first I thought that Bricky, another one of the creators I liked, was the one to create that video. But yes, here I am, I've come again to nag about a game that seemingly is loved by everyone, just as I did with my Blasphemous video, especially since I feel that brings more value to the table than just presenting the same sentiments or reviewing the game. More importantly, I am doing this because I know that in my heart there is some version of Returnal that would have been one of my favorite games ever. Starting off, I'll quickly summarize the structure of the game for anyone watching who didn't play it yet. Mind you, this will neglect a lot of detail for now. And quickly, regarding spoilers, the video footage contains some which include biomes, bosses, and items that appear later into the game. Otherwise, there will be little to no mention of any story aspects except in the specific section for it. Personally, in terms of spoilers, I think that nothing present in this video will affect your experience if you do choose to play the game later. The game starts with you crashing on an alien planet. Now with your ship in shambles on nothing but your suit and pistol, you explore this mysterious planet and search for a way out. And yeah, also every time you die, the planet brings you back to life to the same point in time when you wake up after crash landing the ship. The game is structured as a traditional roguelike, meaning you go into different rebuilt rooms in a standard procedurally generated fashion. These rooms basically boil down to combat ones, reward ones that sometimes include a challenge, and everything else that connects them, which usually involves story bits. As you go through the game, you find many items which upgrade your character and change the way you play to some degree, but more on that later. There's 6 total biomes in the game. Your goal is to pass through all of them, kill the boss at the end of each of them without dying all the way through, and you win. Now that that's done with, let's dive deeper into each aspect of this game, and what better to start off with than... I don't want to spend the whole video explaining the game, so let's finish this one quick. You move, run, jump pretty high, dash in a direction with invincibility frames, and of course practice Americans' favorite hobby, that's of course mowing the lawns of this planet, because dear god do those stuff need trimming. Despite your limited arsenal on paper, the game feels truly freeing in how it allows you to express the mastery of its mechanics, because Returnal utilizes bullet hell's core element of positioning, but on a much larger scale. Not only with the fact that it's a 3D game, but also you have this great feeling dash and jump that you can control the distance of. Additionally, the combat areas within the maps are very well designed with all of this in mind, and makes the player consider every aspect of their positioning, from their cover, surroundings, and sometimes even whether they are sprinting or not. Combine this with multiple enemies spewing all sorts of projectiles and beams at you, denying you space and simultaneously emphasizing the significance of each step you take and each move you make. So what's the problem here, Potato Boy? Everything sounds so fine and dandy. Well, to start, there's a fine line based on how the combat is designed to be between manageable and pure sensory overload. That is way too many. That is way too many. That is way too many. Oh, of course I'm not gonna be aware of what the fuck my surroundings are. While Returnal does its best, that fine line is unfortunately rarely reached. So what do I mean by that exactly? Well, truth be told, I found Returnal to be quite easy, and I honestly kind of breezed through it. It took me a bit, sure, but I think I died like 3 to 5 times throughout my whole playthrough, and I'm fairly confident 1 or 2 were just me fucking around or falling off one too many cliffs. But I don't see any way to reach safely. I want to try it. Okay. Oh, don't attack me, lasers. Lasers attack me. I might just die. I'm gonna die. I died. The enemies, even though some of them have interesting behavior and patterns to them, most of the time all they would be to me is shoot at them while avoiding anything that's vibrant color. That's what translated in my mind, and I just did it. Then there's other times when there's just too many enemies in a single zone, or the boss ate something really bad and now is taking it all out on you. My perception of everything is going awry right now. And by then you are in pure chaos, just pressing anything, moving anywhere and hoping for them to die before you do. But the very best moments, the very few ones, were when these scenarios met and I just entered the zone, remembering the place and speed of oncoming bullets outside my vision, recognizing all enemies' potential actions and having in mind the best new position to move to gain the advantage, all while maintaining my aim on enemies. My bosses fall into a similar problem, except they trade the added complexity of fighting multiple enemies at once with just a lot more bullets. And admittedly, they also have the coolness element of actually fighting a boss. All the bosses have phases that essentially mean they will be spewing more bullets when they reach that phase, and honestly, most of their extra gimmicks are ones that are very limited without providing much to the fight. One, for example, is them getting into melee range quickly so you have to dash. Another one is them flying out of the stage to have you focus solely on dodging the bullets. And one is damaging only certain weak spots after you have to reveal them, etc, etc. But then, there's this one fascinating section around the mid-game of the last phase of a boss that showcases how they could have hit so much harder. Oh, I see. Oh my god. Oh my god. How do I even? What do I even? What's happening? Oh, I get it. I get it. I gotta get to him. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. What the fuck? That just fell. No. Alright, alright, alright. I am. It feels like I'm fucking crack right now. It feels like I'm on fucking crack. Alright. Alright, I did it. I did it. My mind. My mind. That was one of the coolest fucking sections ever. And I truly feel for Returnal here. It's hard to change up the design of enemies and boss fights when your game has a great base all around the bullet hell, so that's the main way to bump up the difficulty. But it's also sort of restricted by that genre. And at the same time, in games like the Souls series for example, they can do so much more with their boss fights with similarly great yet simple core mechanics, because they allow for the player to go into a cycle of continuous trial and error, dying and fighting the boss again and again, all while memorizing their patterns. But Returnal, as also a roguelike, cannot afford to incorporate such design because killing the player in that way would feel way more frustrating than engaging. Additionally, I face an issue with the bullets themselves, and of course the first thing that occurs to mind is, how could I have an issue with bullets? They're innocent little objects for lighthearted fun, right? Well, while that's debatable, the problem is with the types of bullets per se. Because see, projectiles have different colors. There's red, blue, green, orange, and purple. There's also beams, big balls, and circular rays. There's also these weird dart bullets. I inferred the differences between them to a pretty good degree, since the game, as far as I know, does not inform you of this, but then comes stuff that makes no sense to me. I still don't fully understand the difference between most of them. I know now the hard way that purple attacks cannot be dashed through. I don't know what those purple stuff mean. Can I not dash through them? Fuck, purple I can't dash through purple. And that darts will track you so you have to steer around them. Motherfucker! But then I could not tell you the difference between the other bullet colors for the life of me. I don't know what orange is, but feels like blue is like sidestep, red is like dodge, purple is avoid, right, green is I don't know. And honestly, for how much I've talked about the combat, you really don't do that much of it. Most of the time is actually spent on that. The combat sections felt weirdly sandwiched between all the other systems and sections of the game. For example, there's puzzle rooms, there's secrets you could be searching for within each level, there's places you can't reach but you don't know if you can't reach them because you don't have the right tools or because you just don't know how. What? So I can't get that is what I'm getting at. There's rooms with story exposition, there's ones for just plain traversal, and between all of that are the combat sections that last an average of just a minute or so. There's the systems with all the items related to your character. There's a lot of run-specific passive bonus items, for example, including artifacts you find, suit augments that increase things like your damage and max HP. There's stat upgrades, as well as these healing stones you find that also can increase your max HP. Additionally, there's consumables that have an active one-time effect. These can be found all around the world, especially especially in chests. These chests would require keys that you also find randomly throughout the world, not to mention the currency of obelisks that you collect to craft and buy items at certain stations. All these items I mentioned have an aspect of them of malignancy. It's a system that makes obtaining something have a probability of giving you what's called a malfunction, which debuffs you until you fulfill a certain condition. Yep. Suffer damage when collecting items until I fabricate an item. You suck. I haven't gone through everything yet and it already sounds like a bit much, doesn't it? Then there's the upgrade system that I kind of like the most actually within the game, which are parasites. You find them with a certain positive effect, but you take with it a negative one. But you think it ends here? You damn well know the answer. There's this permanent currency called ether that can be found also within the world. It can be spent on a one-time use respawn machine that you find within each biome, or to clear malignancy on items and also unlock new items in future runs. The complexity of all these systems is really kind of there, but they do not translate well when you're actually playing the game. While they can have interesting effects, most of the time they do not add any significant changes to your character. I just ended up thinking simple things like, man, I feel strong right now and I'm doing a lot of damage, or this debuff sucks and I want to get rid of it. Give me the damage. It's a lot of damage and I want the damage. Thank you for the damage. This is really good damagedness. This might be something more specific to me, but I cannot stress on how much all of these systems that are spread around and scattered cause me to spend so much time thinking which items to acquire, what to spend my currency on, should I be opening this malignant chest, and so much more. This is gonna give me a malfunction, then I use malfunction item and wait, but that's gonna do nothing. For example, there's this item that fixes all malfunctions you have on you when used. Once I get it, I'd backtrack throughout the whole map to get the malignant items I previously avoided and then use it. Another example is these health stones that drop, which would increase your max HP if you use them while at full HP. So what I would do is I would leave that stone there, go and find other ways to restore my HP and come back and use them later. This is just a sample of what I did throughout so much of the game. It almost felt like I was playing a strategy, resource management game within the actual game. I should have probably picked that up before getting the heal. How would I know? How would I know? Like, so much strategy to picking up just fucking items in this game. I would estimate I spent at least 25% of my full game time just making these decisions and thinking about things like the order of item acquisition. But my point is that these system complications, regardless of whether they were kind of self-inflicted or not, they really took a lot of enjoyment out of my experience. Especially since the end result of it all didn't really matter to me because I didn't feel more powerful or able to do more things, or it didn't spice up the way I play at all. It was just an illusion that I increased my numbers somehow. And to add on to all of that, honestly, it felt like a lot of the game was designed around me dying a lot more than I did. I had this feeling that I really didn't see enough of the systems of the game, and the game left me craving much more. As I finished the game, I got through the first 2 biomes twice and the rest exactly once, even though they had different mechanics to them, such as the last underwater biome with the different physics it has, or the all new enemy types that are specific to each region. This actually creates an interesting argument for difficulty settings, as I wished I could tune the game's difficulty to a harder one to see if the game would have fitted me better. This debate has already been circling for a long time and it's been made countless times, and in truth, I respect the developer's vision to not have a difficulty setting, but part of me yet wonders if that hindered the experience for me, and what I would assume to be a marginal minority of other players. And then that got me wondering, does the same happen to other players in games that I feel are perfect for me, such as Sekiro, but not for them? It is quite an interesting thought that gave me a new perspective on the matter. Despite finishing the game and rolling credits, I saw most enemy types a couple of times, some even once or twice. There's this cube system that allows you to unlock new items within your run, and I unlocked exactly 4 out of 18. You can spend ether at the beginning of each run to unlock a new item, and I could only unlock 4 of 22, I think. There's many weapon types, but I barely got to test out like half of them in my runs. And speaking of weapons, there's this whole system around them too. You gain what's called proficiency as you play and progress through the run, which increases the level of weapons you find. Then there's item drops that also increase these proficiency levels, and also an alt fire attached to each weapon, as well as weapon specific traits that are both random to each weapon instance. And these enhancements or traits are locked on each weapon at first till you play enough with it to unlock it now and for future weapons. Furthermore, all weapons have certain stats that are also randomly applied and distributed. All this must translate translate to something within the game, right? Not really, not at all. I just ended up picking up the weapon with the highest level and highest bonus damage stat. Ooh, that's a lot of bonus damage. That's a lot of bonus damage. I didn't consider the alt fire, the enhancements it had, nor the other stats. I barely even considered the weapon type itself. But we're not done yet. You also get these permanent upgrades as you go through each biome. Very early on, you unlock the ability for your weapons to alt fire. Soon after that, you unlock the ability to teleport between different nodes you find. And later on, you get a melee sword, a grapple hook, and more consumable slots. Yeah, I told you I forgot something about the systems, didn't I? It was the damn sword. As I was playing, I really didn't understand its purpose, as I have never felt the urge to use it in combat, except when enemies have these red barriers, in which case you have to use the sword on them, otherwise they would take no damage. But somehow the game felt like it kind of wanted me to use it. I would get melee upgrades sometimes, or get a malfunction that requires me to get certain melee kills to get rid of it, but why would I? It's just an extremely short melee swing, and it didn't have, as far as I know, something like Doom's Chainsaw or Glory Kills where you could get healing from these skills to promote a more high risk, high reward playstyle. Back to the permanent upgrades you get. In the latter half of the game, you get the abilities to walk over red hazards, go underwater, and see certain orbs that unlock hidden paths. It occurred to me that all these shiny new toys could have been used in previous levels I've been through to reach places and get items I couldn't get to before. But that didn't matter because, as I said before, I finished the game before any of that could have happened. And of all of these permanent upgrades, arguably the grapple hook is the only one that is not only used as an exploration mechanic, but also integrates seamlessly into the combat and makes the combat zones much more engaging. I kind of wish that the rest of them had the same treatment. For the melee weapon again, for example, what if you could parry certain enemy shots with it? What if you could parry enemies' melee attacks with it? Or as I said before, what if it acted like a glory kill? All of these ideas would have added more depth to the combat, but using the tools that the player was already given. And so in the end, with all of these systems that felt to me like they were all over the place, and I bet I forgot to mention some of them too, I really think that most of them do not serve a purpose towards improving the player's experience. Sometimes they actually hinder it. Many of them could have easily been simplified or combined into a single system without losing much substance, and I wish Returnal let me spend more time doing combat instead. Truthfully, as I finish up this section of the video, kind of intensifies in me the sort of feeling of, was I playing the game wrong? In a way, there's no wrong way to play a game, and I finished the game without dying much, which should in theory translate to me playing the game in the opposite of wrong, right? But then it still felt like I was continuously clashing with the game's intended design. I even know if I'm supposed to be playing the game by clearing up the whole map. I don't know how I'm supposed to be playing the game, but it feels like it makes sense. But you know what? There's this whole other part of the game that made me ask, not was I playing the game wrong, but if I was playing the wrong game. And that's that.
What are you doing? Wake up.
I don't even know how to begin this section. Maybe the most appropriate way would be, what the fuck? The setting of this game is absolutely amazing, and the world does a great job of immersing you into believing its existence. The idea of this alien planet that has you in a continuous cycle of, well, Returnal, and you are stuck exploring it in terms of breaking this cycle, it works so well. The design of the biomes, the alien technology, enemies, weapons, and literally everything around you does nothing short of selling all of this to you. And this game has this subtle element of psychological horror in it. As you go through the game, you find these corpses of Celine, your main character, scattered around with recording tapes that highlight what Celine faced in previous cycles. From her being mentally deranged, to wanting to be part of a hive mind, to wanting to end it all.
All evidence suggests an exceedingly regimented hive mind. Curious, how would it feel to be a part of such a symphony? There wouldn't be any selfishness or obstacles, just endless flowing union. A beautiful song that would never stop. A hymn of liberation from want.
Another crazy Celine on our hands, boys. It really drills into you how fucked up this world is and how any of these scenarios could happen to you in your current run. Then there's these house sections, which almost made me think that this game just had a straight-on pure horror element to it. I will let you in. You stop making a fuss over there. I really am trying not to appear scared, but I am scared. You go into Celine's home on Earth, but on the alien planet somehow, and experience these weird shenanigans all over. They mostly relate to two entities, the astronaut, which I still think is just a shy guy that wants to invite Celine to like a prom or something, and Helios, a child in the home with the same name as the ship we crash land in. Then there's the history of the planet itself, with many concepts being flown around: the hive mind, sentinels, creator slash destroyer. I assume that's one entity. We should not have followed the creator slash destroyer. That is not as cool of a name as you think it might be. The Severed, and much more that I just couldn't fully wrap my head around very well. You find glyphs around the world that allow you to translate certain writings that I assume reveal more of the story, but from the few ones that I unlocked, it confused me more than anything. So while the game's a little cuckoo in the head and confusing for my own head, didn't matter to me because the world, the mystery behind Celine's backstory, the cycle, and everything else intrigued me and had me wanting to see where all of this goes. And where does it go? Absolutely nowhere. This is no different. I'm still in the ship. What? What? What the fuck? What do you mean? Oh, what is this? The ending I got, which is that of Act 2 before rolling credits, posed even more questions than answers. And none of the alien planet's history tied into anything or ever made any sort of sense for me. The last cutscene shows something that happens to Celine on Earth that only hints at the idea that probably none of this is actually happening to her right now, and it might be a metaphor for something else she's going through. I got a couple of theories in my head. I thought purgatory, I thought maybe attempts on her life, I thought of her fulfilling her child's wishes of becoming an astronaut, but many of these theories are inconclusive at best, and I'm just left unsatisfied given no actual conclusion. So after that, I naturally searched up if there's another ending. I'll just quickly search Returnal, how to get through ending, I guess. And there is one, but after you apparently replayed the whole game again to collect other things. But from what I found, people said that it doesn't really explain much still, and to be brutally honest, I would not have had the motivation to go through all of that either way. So I'm just left, unfortunately, disappointed. But at least now I'll get to watch Jacob Geller's video and other theory videos diving into the story. And look, I admire open-ended stories with mysteries and a wide area for speculation, but I can admit that I personally prefer a story to cohesively end and tie up loose ends. You know what? All of this resembles a game I'm all too familiar with that I felt the same way about before. I think it was called... All these games are crazy, so why don't I go a little crazy with this one as well? Control is a game I've played more than a year ago, and I actually was in the process of creating a similar video to this on it, but I unfortunately got sick with laziness and didn't get to it. But the resemblance to Returnal, the similarity between the cores of these games, fascinating. From what I remember in Control, the world and settings of these games both lie within that realm of mysteriously intriguing, with things that are alien to us as normal humans, phenomena beyond our comprehension. The gameplay in both is just as innovative to their respective genres, with a whole lot of potential. The enemies present in both have a few tricks up their sleeves to spice up encounters, but they usually end up being more frustrating than anything else. Even the bosses have a similar feeling of sure being cool, but missing that extra oomph that would make them engaging and formidable. The other systems in both are just as jumbled, with some being kind of unnecessary. Control has loot drops, the mod upgrade system, and a skill tree, all of which barely adding anything significant to the core gameplay loop in exchange for the increasing complexity they present. And I can totally see that if Jesse and Celine met, they'd be great friends. Both feel around the same age, with similar experiences and personalities, and now that I've said it, I know that you're realizing it's making sense now, right? So I'll be waiting for credits in their upcoming Friendship fan art. Thank you very much. They even both have the same single, insane, dopamine-inducing set piece that's a masterwork of presenting the full potential of the game. I already showed you Returnals, and Control's Ashtray Maze is just as amazing, and I would honestly go to say I still prefer it. Both games also felt ambitious, almost to a fault, and while I loved both of them, I left them wishing that this gaping hole of potentials they left behind would have been filled as I experienced them. I really can't put my finger on why I even put this section in the video. Part of it because I just found this to be a very interesting relation, and another one is because I can sort of envision both of these games having a sequel and it being one of the best crafted experiences ever. I don't really have a transition in mind for the next section, I just wanted to go through mine. What the fuck is wrong with this game? Why do you do this game? I fucking hate you. I will start this one off by something that had me seething as I play, even though it's not that big of a deal. You know these items called consumables that you can use to fuck them so much. Brother, it's the same two shitty. God, fuck off. The items are so ass. I hate them. They have no purpose, and if they do, I don't care. I just didn't want to see them in my playthrough anymore. A lot of them have negligible effects. Sometimes using them gets me hit. I used the item and the item fucking made me get hit, because the item put me in place. I get so much of them that I don't need as a reward for optional sections that I choose to go through, and the only ones that are useful to me are the healing items, in which case just give me the fucking health stones and let's be done with it. Can you not malignify me? Thank you. Die. I'm not gonna open chests again, man. It's just not, none of this is worth it. I wish the upgrades had more interesting effects that you could feel, consider as you play. I would have loved for them to have more synergy between each other, to have kind of appropriate builds. Even if synergies can't be technically found within the game, it's quite hard actually to form a coherent one within a single run without a lot of luck. There's these rooms where the moment you enter, you have to rush through to get the reward, otherwise it would be closed off, and I would never anticipate them because I didn't think they had an indication until the very end of the game, so they would continuously frustrate me, especially since the activity of rushing through them is usually by no means difficult. Dash enable, disable, I mean. Alright, so of course I want those. Really? Oh. I'm annoyed. Again. They did it fucking again. The timed rooms suck. There's no reason for them. I assume that the lasers are just going to be shifting, like they do in so many other places. It would be great if there's a menu for tips and game mechanics explanations, clarify things like bullet colors and strategies against certain enemies, and this would have allowed the devs to make the game harder in return to reward the usage of this knowledge. You keep some momentum a bit after landing from a jump, which can make you slip in platforming sections, and your dash distance is not adjustable, or at the very least very hard to do so you can't really control it well like you can with the jump. There's some hidden items and bits in the game which require other items that you don't have, but the game's not clear enough on you needing them. There's this freaking music box that I got that plays when near a secret area, and it was driving me crazy because I didn't know what the fuck the game meant by secret area. Alright, secret nearby. Again. How do I access it? Fuck if I know. I'm guessing it's in this direction. I don't understand how to find the secret. Is it that? Nope. And after a while of continuously looking, I just gave up. Secret? Brother, you know what? How about you take that secret and shove it up your ass? The window where you can activate your overload that instantly reloads your weapon cancels out if you input for alt fire and some other inputs, not just the firing input. Having the Tower of Sisyphus, which is an optional endless mode in the game, presented to the player from the start of a run is confusing and should be more clear on what it actually is. Because my first and only run in it, I entered in the beginning thinking it was part of the game, and then I couldn't save midway through the run even though I had to leave the game and do something else. Not to mention the fact that I didn't want to do an endless mode right now. There's many niche inner workings in the game that are never properly explained, so you just have to learn them the hard way really, such as not being able to go to a previous biome once I move on to the new one. I'll just go through it, assuming I can come back. It makes sense. They have to let you come back. Oh, or you just go through the portal again. Or you don't go through the portal again. But are you telling me that I can't get out of here? Surely I can. Surely I can. I will, and I would. Oh my god, you can't. You can. Oh my god. There's this weird late game enemy that seemingly gives you malfunctions if he hits you. Wait, what? Did he just apply malfunction to me? And I even avoided ever getting a third malfunction because the game told me it's critical and I didn't know what that meant. Let's see. Warning, next malfunction is critical. What does critical mean? I won't even risk it. I don't know what the fuck critical means. Spending ether to clear malignancy of items seems unnecessary, especially earlier on in the game where you do not understand the value of ether, which will make the players tend towards saving it over using it to clear said malignancy. I finished the whole game without using this functionality even once. I wish enemy types weren't restricted to each biome, because there's truly a large amount of enemy types in this game with a lot of variety from one another, and not being able to combine these varieties of them in a single encounter seems like huge missed potential. I just remembered when editing this video an instance of a confusing scenario that definitely seems to be a case of unintended behavior, but there's this one time where I died to a mini-boss revived in the biome using the revival device. I didn't even see that. I think I will be dying this run. Went back to the same room, and that enemy apparently kept the aggro on me all this time, and thus entered the room as I was trying to enter to him. Okay. I think that this should be happening. And then that room got locked down so that I couldn't leave, and moreover that room was a puzzle one with the dash disabled. In the area with the dash disabled, and the lockdown is now here. Okay, so I'm dead. This should not have been happening. I don't know what even to say. This should not be happening. Lastly, this is not to do with the actual game itself, but oh my god, this video is taking way too much work.
What is the truth behind White Shadow? Why do you repeat my buried past? How can you know? Out here in the void.
Ultimately, I am not arguing that Returnal is not a good game. I am arguing that it could have been a great game. This game has the juice, the production quality, and the potential to rival Sony's first-party big hits. The only aspect that might be different from them is the story, and even then, it still could have been great. It would have presented a new form of storytelling and narrative that could have stood out, as well as a beautiful blend of genres that Sony's first-party games did not touch on, and a gameplay loop that on its own is a very strong foundation. From what I understand, Returnal did well in terms of sales on PlayStation and decently on PC, but I know that it could have boomed just as much as Spider-Man or God of War did. I hope that through this video and the thoughts that I presented, that I exposed this game to more people, honestly, and get to hear other people's opinions on the game and what they agree and disagree with me on, and most importantly, in hopes for Returnal 2 that exceeds expectations and reaches its full potential. This video's probably gotten extremely long, and as I finish up writing the script, I dread the process of actually making all of this and putting it together. But I want to note that because of that, there are probably more things I could have touched on, explored, or suggested improvements upon, but chose to cut them instead. In the end, I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, like everyone else, I have to remind you to like and subscribe. And I know that I do not post videos as much as I should, even though I enjoy it immensely. But I will be trying my best, so look forward for more. And thank you for watching. The upcoming section just shows what my thoughts on the game were the moment I finished it, just in case you're curious. So that was Returnal. I am surprisingly mixed on it. Insanely so. It's a good game. It's a good game. Like I can't say otherwise, but it's not great. It's not fantastic, and I shouldn't be expecting that out of everything. What do I know anyway? But as a player, I don't know, I expected more. Expected way more. More story, more clarification, more gameplay, more difficulty. But they've got something absolutely fantastic on their hands. But most of it is actually optional. Like, I could play with the new weapons, but for example, they have many unique weapons in the game, but if I have a favorite, I am bound to find that favorite. Like 100%, because they drop so many weapons, even though they have a lot of different weapons. And I guess I was assuming that that was fine because they expected people to die multiple times in the run, but for someone like me, I feel like that was the design decision because everybody designs a roguelite in mind with people just gonna die, like say at least 10 times. In Hades, I didn't like actually beat the final boss, which is not, I don't think even, yeah, it wasn't the final boss, because you can make it harder, but the final boss basically for the main game without extras after like 20 runs. But probably a bit less, but it was more than 10. I can guarantee you that. Returnal, I feel like I did 4 runs, and 3 of them were like stumped by things that either were not in my control, or just me not caring enough, or some stupid mistake. 2 runs that I actually failed because I failed. So, but the game felt like it wanted you to fail more. so that more of the design would make sense. I am super fucking mixed on this.